for the first time, we are going to talk about the population.
He has ruled Uganda for 38 years now, 6 presidential terms in office.
You find somebody lecturing Yoweri Museveni. It's really madness.
So what they mean, we don't know what they mean. So if they want to kill us, we don't know.
Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is a man surrounded by controversies related to freedom of speech, allegations of human rights violation, nepotism, and the killing of Ugandan citizens.
Just like there was a time when you were not in power, there will be a time when you are not in power.
President Museveni has claimed on several occasions that Uganda is one of the most democratic countries in the world and that he is leading his people out of poverty and even to a better future. This is the story of Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, one of Africa's longest serving presidents. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kenyan Historian, the home of African documentaries by Africans. My name is Enoch Sikoli.
I was telling His Excellency that even as recently as 2013, 68% of the Ugandans were outside the money economy, in what they call subsistence economy. Just growing food, eating and drinking alcohol, no earning money.
A big hat and an oversized shirt or suit are some of his trademarks. A man with an average height, a grimy grin, and a completely shaved bald head. Yet, he embodies many things.
So from that humble beginning, 5 years ago, we were able to build this force which defeated 16 offensives by the Obote army.
On the 29th of January 1986, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni became president of the Republic of Uganda.
Our army had destroyed at least 300 vehicles.
He was sworn in after leading a successful 5-year liberation struggle. And since then, Museveni has always found a way of staying in power despite domestic and international pressure to leave the political scene.
The king is not elected. If he wields political power, how shall he be accountable for his mistakes? Suppose he makes mistakes.
For the decades Yoweri Museveni has been on the throne, he has from time to time tended to his traditional long-horned cattle during his free time. On several accounts, Museveni has boasted about the breed's health benefits and resilience against dry weather.
We have now built a leather industry for the shoes. So it's really a big form of wealth.
It speaks of his origin.
So they're a very big part of our system of this area, the cows, supporting both the cattle people and also the farmers, the cultivators.
Museveni was born in 1944 into a family of cattle keepers in Ankole, western Uganda. His name was taken from the Abasubeni, the Ugandan servicemen in the 7th Regiment of the King's African Rifles. His father, Amos Kaguta, was an army man in the former British Protectorate of Uganda. It is said that Museveni loves his gun so much so that he has given it a name. Ruita Vagomi, which translates to the one that shoots down the stubborn one. The gun and the military regalia go to the heart of his identity as a leader.
According to we who have been in this for long, after many years as a student movement, as a liberation movement, we detected those three historic missions. Historic mission number one is prosperity. How do you create prosperity for people?
He sees himself as a revolutionary who was forced to turn to armed resistance to topple the dictatorships of Iddi Amin and Militon Obote. In his biography, Museveni says he became politically aware while still a secondary school student. He later went to the University of Dar es Salaam and studied economics and political science. He says it is during his university days in Tanzania where he forged alliances with those he calls other politically active revolutionaries from around the region. His political career would take off in the 1970s after a coup by the notorious army leader, Iddi Amin.
And I will never give up. If I wanted to do something, I would never change my mind.
The Africans having slept.
While at the university, Museveni formed the University Students' African Revolutionary Front student activist group and led a student delegation to the territory held by Mozambican Liberation Front in Portuguese Mozambique, where he received military training. He helped form the Front for National Salvation, which was one of the rebel groups that, backed by Tanzania, ousted Amin.
On the same day like today, first, I was going to Mwalimu Nyeri's office to prepare for the expulsion of Iddi Amin from the Kagera salient, but also from Uganda.
Fronasa's goal was to initiate a mass armed struggle. Iddi Amin had become unpopular, not just in Uganda. Many in the East Africa region had a dislike for him.
So help me God.
In 1978, Museveni and a small group of militiamen joined the Tanzanian army in its invasion of Uganda. By the time the Amin regime fell in April 1979, Museveni had amassed 9,000 followers, many of whom hailed from his home region in the southwest. His effectiveness as a recruiter led to Museveni securing a significant role as the Minister of Defense in the newly established government in Kampala following Amin's overthrow.
That's terrible.
December 1980, Ugandans participated in an election to choose a new government. It was to be the first election in Uganda since it gained independence in 1962. Yoweri Museveni ran for president as the head of a newly established party, the Uganda Patriotic Movement. However, Militon Obote, who had been overthrown by General Amin in 1971, won the election and reclaimed the presidency. Museveni, who had served as a minister in the new government, alleged that the elections were rigged. In February 1981, he retreated to the bush and initiated a guerrilla war against Obote's government, operating from the swamps of central Uganda. This is Yoweri Museveni in July 1984 in his living quarters at Mobile Headquarters. Yoweri Museveni, the inspirational 40-year-old rebel commander, was at the center of the Bush War. For 5 years, Uganda was in the throes of a guerrilla war against President Militon Obote, who was being supported by the British. The African country was facing another horrific period. The killing fields of Kapeka was littered with bodies of thousands of peasants massacred by Obote's men.
They are very much worse than they were under Amin, because under Amin, first of all, Iddi Amin was not killing people outside the intellectual class. He would kill only the elite, elements from the elite who were threatening his position, or sometimes over rivalry, over business, things like that. But he never touched the peasantry. But Obote is killing everybody.
The war christened Lowero Triangle caused a lot of misery, loss of lives and property. Obote was ousted in 1985 by his own military leaders. In January 1986, National Resistance Army fighters entered Kampala and established a new government, installing Museveni as president.
And that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. So help me God.
He introduced the movement system of politics, described as a broad-based alternate system of democracy in which people compete for political office on individual merit. Museveni argued that political party activity split underdeveloped countries like Uganda along ethnic and religious lines. Over the next 10 years, he became a darling of the West. Uganda's economy began to grow steadily. The country's annual average growth of over 5% was realized. Its commitment to tackle poverty was hailed. Primary school education enrollment doubled. HIV levels dropped because of an impressive anti-AIDS campaign spearheaded by the president himself. That image, however, soon began to crumble when Uganda and Rwanda invaded neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo in support of rebels fighting to overthrow the government. Troops from Uganda and Rwanda fought each other in DR Congo, with Congolese civilians paying the price. Uganda's involvement in the war damaged Museveni's reputation at home and abroad. During this period, there were increasing complaints that Museveni was growing more hardline and relying increasingly on a kitchen cabinet of hardline supporters.
Ugandans under the age of 38, and that is more than 3/4 of the country's entire population, have only known one president, and that is Yoweri Museveni.
Most Ugandans have rightfully predicted the outcome of presidential elections they have participated in even before they are staged. It has always been Museveni's victory.
And I am glad you have joined me again to push Uganda forward like we have done in the past. Apoyo Matek.
At the time he took over power in 1986, a few expected him to last that long. Now he ranks among African presidents who have held on to power by manipulating their local politics.
It is no secret that Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is aging, and there is a lot of pressure, both locally and internationally, for him to retire. The question is, will he? So the next 3 years or so will be a defining moment for the future of politics in Uganda.
In 2017, Museveni was interviewed by Al Jazeera TV. He rejected allegations that he was preparing his son or wife to inherit Uganda's top seat. He actually asked, why prepare them? But many know that Sevo, as many young Ugandans refer to him, is a sharp and cunning politician. He has on many occasions done the opposite of what he promised to do. For example, altering constitutional provisions to remain in power. For the years he has ruled Uganda, no alternative power structure has ever emerged, and many have accused him of building a dynasty. Museveni is almost 80 years old, still in power, and with no clear heir apparent. Museveni is credited for leading the then troubled Uganda out of the ashes. He brought stability to a country that had been ravaged by dictatorships of Iddi Amin and Militon Obote, and 8 military coups.
Must create prosperity in the modern way by everybody joining the money economy. And when you join the money economy, you produce a good or a service which you sell. And if you sell it persistently, you will get prosperity.
But under Museveni, Uganda hasn't progressed either on the democratic front.
As it became clear 20 years ago that Museveni was going to stay in power, some of his close associates, like Dr. Kizza Besigye, started to break away. And as they did, security forces touted as a people's police and army turned their guns towards them.
Kizza Besigye, a member of the opposition Forum for Democratic Change and once Museveni's physician, first challenged him in the 2001 election. His victory in the 2001 presidential election was tainted by a rise in state-sponsored violence, prompting his main rival, Besigye, to flee the country, citing threats to his life. Critics argue that Museveni has grown less tolerant of dissenting opinions, adopting a more combative tone. When it became evident that Bobi Wine, a singer, posed a serious threat to the president's rule, he became the latest politician to incur the wrath of the military. Bobi Wine, who attracts large crowds of young people due to his star power, was violently arrested during a by-election campaign for a colleague in Arua, a town in the northwest, in 2018. He was then charged with treason, though these charges were eventually dropped.
Imagine that President Museveni, at my age, with his colleagues, went to the bush to fight against the injustices that were far less than what we are facing today. But he thinks that in 2018, other young people cannot stand up and look him in the eyes and say enough is enough.
In November 2020, during 2 days of protest following Bobi Wine's arrest, 54 people were killed, many of whom were believed to have been shot by security forces. And he said that taking your head above the parapet in Uganda is a brave choice. In fact, anyone who seeks to challenge Museveni shall be in no doubt about the level of harassment that they are likely to face. His tight and unrestricted hold onto power was engineered through separate amendments to the Constitution, first in 2005 and then in 2018. Museveni was supposed to relinquish power in 2006. But with the help of his allies, the Ugandan strongman persuaded Parliament to remove the two-term 5-year limit from the Constitution. Before the constitutional order on term limits began in 1996, Museveni had already been in power for 10 years. Ironically, when Museveni came to power in 1986, he was a fervent military officer who recognized that one of Africa's major issues was leaders holding onto power. In 2018, Museveni was at it again. He enacted legislation that eliminated the presidential age limit of 75 from the nation's constitution. This action enabled the former military leader, who was 73 at the time, to run for the presidency in 2021. When Ugandans next head to the polls in 2026, President Yoweri Museveni will have been at the helm for exactly 40 years.
At 79, though, he's less than 3 years away from completing his 6th term in office. Will he hang up his boots this time round and pass on the baton? Well, if yes, to who? There are already speculations in Uganda that he's grooming his son, General Muhoozi, to become the next president if he lives.
In the capital, Kampala, there has been renewed talk of a political transition. For years, there have even been multiple reports about a succession plan for Muhoozi Kainerugaba, his son and general in the army, to become the next president. But Museveni, who will be 81 years old in 2026, could still appear on the ballot. My name is Enoch Sikoli, and I am the Kenyan historian.